C5 fully respects modern treaty, all treaty rights.
It's another day here in Canada. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we've got a Saskatchewan judge that has ruled foreign nationals do not have the right to immigrate to Canada. We're also seeing the fall of the Canadian auto industry. It is about to implode, and the Liberals are causing this. We've also got a Christian rock star from America being banned from having a concert because some locals don't like him. Let's jump into this. Starting this one off, this actually ties in with the previous video, talking about the comparisons of Saudi Arabia and Canada. Well, we've got provincial and federal debt here in this chart. As CBC Watcher pointed out there, $2.3 trillion. So that does align with that chart with Saudi Arabia from the previous video. And you're seeing here the yellow is the federal debt and the red here is provincial debt. Who's got the lowest? It's Alberta. The irony of this graph too, with Quebec having one of the highest, is they have all the natural gas and minerals to be incredibly prosperous. It's just their ideology that prevents them from digging that stuff up. Got this one from Blacklock's reporter here. A Saskatchewan judge has ruled foreign nationals do not have the right to immigrate to Canada. Decision came in the case of an Indian lab tech whose permit was revoked on suspicion of irregularities. Neither is there a right to privileged immigration process. Immigration policy is close to the core of executive direction, wrote Justice Davis. Immigrants had few to no rights at stake. The lab tech from India initially granted a permit under Saskatchewan's immigrant nominee program under the occupation in demand category. The application subsequently came under scrutiny following tips questioning the applicant's tie to suspicious broker. Evidence included anonymous email alleging that travel jockey padded fake college degrees, fake job letters from Saskatchewan at $1,000 apiece. It was so easy, wrote the tipster. This is great news. A judge standing up for Canadians in our process. Kick these people out, taking advantage of this with fake identification, fake letters, toss their butts out of here. Next up, we got this one from Melissa. It says Canadian government is sending money to Africa to help with youth employment. Meanwhile, youth unemployment in Canada is experiencing significant increase, reaching near decade highs in some months. You see that here. They announced $5 million, a 5-year partnership between the government of Canada and Cpac Canada to support youth employment in East Africa. Get out of here with this. The Canadian government does not like Canadians. They like our money, but they're not serving us. Their goal has always been sending money overseas. It's harder to trace 1 cent. That's right. There's no paper trail. The money goes over there. It disappears. Whose bank account does that end up in? A little debanking update here. So Eva Cpac, the Freedom Convoy lawyer, getting debanked by RBC. Well, now we got Simieritsch getting debanked by PayPal. Look at this. You can no longer do business with PayPal. We have recently reviewed your usage of PayPal services. Uh-oh, PayPal. Careful. Careful what you're doing here. You're going to lose a lot of business. Maybe they don't care. Maybe the ideology is more important than the bottom line, their business. Due to the nature of your activities, we've chosen to discontinue service to you in accordance with PayPal user agreement. As a result, we have placed a permanent limitation on your account. This is a slippery slope. We're turning into a corrupt African country. Got this one from Shreya T. Says update, there will likely be 241 candidates running in Battle River Crowfoot. If the longest ballot committee want, they can easily field up to 300 candidates. This is a disgrace. There needs to be jail time for Thomas Sachuzwitz for organizing this. This is not a protest. They're not campaigning. If these candidates were legitimately going out and campaigning, then fair enough, but they're not doing that. They're making a mockery of the system and they're costing taxpayers money. This is just unacceptable. I have no words how angry this makes me. Why aren't conservatives doing the same in liberal precincts? Got this one from Table Salt, just making crap up at this point. So we've got a Sobeys store in Toronto has product of Canada blueberries on the actual product here, product of USA, trying to get some more sales. I bought some American blueberries and American cherries the other day. They're delicious. I also bought some Okanagan ones, also delicious. This is a topic that's been popping around recently, lowering Canada's voting age to 16, because this is what they're doing in the UK, or they're proposing it in the UK at least. It says it's her top parliamentary priority, Senator says. Senator Marlou McFedrin argues that extending voting rights to younger people is logical and about fairness. If you can't legally drink the stumbling juice or drive a car, why should you be able to vote? The human brain isn't even fully developed into your 20s. Kids who are 16 do not care about politics. The Liberals just want to lower this voting age so then they can start manipulation earlier and take advantage of that. There's one thing to say about Liberals. They are really good at politics. They're terrible at governing the country and doing what's right for the people, but they are very good at politics. Got this one. Global news on the brink amid declining revenues. Uh-oh. They're losing viewership due to their skewed, very biased representation of news, adding to the fact that we are shielded from actual events globally, nationally, and even locally, feeding us current events, show and tell, and the like. News is challenging business when you constantly lie. Lie to cover previous lies. Global News, your source of finest regime-funded pravada. Got this one from CTV Ottawa. This is funny. Ottawa Gatineau could see 24,000 public service jobs cut by 2028. Just wait for it. You can see here, this is at 7:30 a.m. that they posted this. And by 11:01 a.m., number of federal service jobs could drop by almost 60,000. Got a little update in the report there. Mark Carney cutting a lot of public service jobs. Elbows up, suckers. Yeah. Moving ahead, we've got Mark Carney in Northwest Territories. Check this out. So he's asked about Gaza, and he quickly turns his head and he's asked anyone else. He doesn't want to answer this question.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be back in the Northwest Territories, to be here as well in Inuit Nunavut, and for this meeting of the Inuit Crown Partnership, my council. It's my first as Prime Minister.
Okay, he looks like Count Chocula, does he not?
Just on Gaza.
Is anyone else?
Yeah. Kevin Rubio.
On Gaza. What? Anyone else?
Just on Gaza.
Is anyone else?
Yeah. Kevin Rubio. Carney. The IRC is investing in LNG here. How do you see the future of LNG across Canada and the IRC's role in that?
With respect to LNG and more simply gas, obviously, we know we're here in Nunavut. Existing gas resources are depleting, and there's a need for replenishment. The energy systems here or there, so it starts with that. We see for Canada a role in full partnership with the Inuit rights holders. I'm saying that because I'm in here, but also
this guy is so cringe listening to him. I'm saying that because I'm here.
Tremendous opportunities in LNG. We have, for example, the Cedar LNG project in British Columbia, which is in full partnership with the Haisla Nation. LNG Canada.
So both David Eby and Mark Carney, they like talking about LNG only when it's Indigenous owned, not owned by a non-Indigenous Canadian. They don't care about the rest of us. They only care about prosperity with LNG if it's Indigenous owned. It's disgraceful.
All consistent with the environmental standards, and in Inuit Nunavut, consistent with those procedures.
Just keep banging the drum, Carney. Eco-green, forced EV mandates, you guys are absolutely wrecking our country. Earlier on in this interview, he's asked about C5.
They're modern treaties, which specifically outline the need for development and environmental assessments.
Yeah.
Will you still proceed with upfront approvals?
I will. To be absolutely clear, C5 fully respects all treaty rights, modern treaty rights, and environmental assessment consistent with those treaty rights. It's one of the things.
This guy's hilarious. He went to his Indigenous conference there and First Nations leaders ate him for breakfast. He had leaders walk out on him, all insulted with him not consulting First Nations for C5, and now he's trying to backpedal it here. You can't have it both ways, Carney. He completely neglected First Nations when he created C5, and now he's trying to pretend that they're fully on board with him and he's consulting them. They're part of the process. When it comes down to it, 5% of the population should not be governing what the major projects are that go across this country. It should be decided for the benefit of all Canadians. Count Chocula here is an absolute joke. And if he was wearing something German or British or anything else, I would make fun of that too. This is not a jab at First Nations. Next up, what we're seeing here is the potential collapse of the entire auto industry in Canada. We've got this. Auto industry says Environment Minister won't relent despite calls to scrap EV mandate. Coming from the National Post here, longstanding demands from the auto industry to scrap EV mandate have grown louder in recent weeks as they point to falling sales and the US trade war. Mark Carney's new Environment Minister here, Julie DeBrusen, is staying firm with this EV mandate going in next year. Multiple premiers have called on Carney government to back off the mandate, including Doug Ford, who said it should be scrapped because companies will not be able to meet the targets. In the month of May, there was only 7% of cars sold were EVs. They're mandating 20% by next year. And we've seen multiple times over the past couple months, Brian Kingston, the CEO and president of the Canadian Vehicle Manufacturers Association, which represents the three major automakers, attended the meeting with Carney earlier this month, and the association also recently met with DeBrusen. Minister DeBrusen and Environment Canada seem to be committed to having electric vehicle mandate in place, and we continue to make the case to them and that there are no changes that you could make to this mandate that will solve this current situation that we're in. Goes on to say there's deep frustration within the industry as it must decide how to meet the upcoming targets, with one option being to restrict the sales of internal combustion engine vehicles. This is going to hurt the auto industry. They're not going to sell as many cars. What does that mean? There's going to be less jobs in Canada. With Trump's tariffs and Mark Carney's inability to negotiate a deal, it's almost like they're working together to destroy the auto industry in Canada and move it all to America. That's what it looks like.
It's forecasted that by 2040, Canada will require 679,000 public charging stations. Right now, we have 34,000. That's like promising to put a Tim Hortons on every corner when you've barely got one per city. Official sources say we need between $300 billion and $500 billion for adequate charging infrastructure, but some independent experts suggest it's more like $1.1 trillion.
Goes on to say, this is urgent, Kingston said. This isn't a tomorrow problem. Under the policy, companies could earn credits by selling zero-emission vehicles. I've been banging this drum for a long time now. Carbon credits, this whole system here, forcing this on Canadians. Meanwhile, Brookfield and Mark Carney have all of these assets and stocks lined up to profit on the back end. Goes on to say, should they fail to meet the targets, they could face penalties under the Canadian Environmental Protection Act. The Environment Minister does not want to scrap the mandate. That was made very clear to us, and that is extremely problematic for the industry. That option cannot be off the table. It is the most effective way to address this current problem, Kingston said. Also says the Environment Minister is not appearing to entertain the question of scrapping the targets. And it says because right now, all they mean is a setup for failure, he says. Are the Liberals intentionally trying to destroy the auto industry in Canada to help America? Is it all about profiting on the back end of green EVs? Is it both? Would they rather have a much smaller industry but have it completely cornered? Something nefarious is going on here because they're not acting in Canadians' best interest, and they're trying to eliminate a pivotal piece of technology in the internal combustion engine. There'll be a time when something else will take over, such as we've seen with horses getting taken over by cars, but we're not at that point. We're not even close to that point. And even today, if you wanted to ride a horse, which we do see some Calistanis and people from India riding horses on streets and stuff, you can do that. You're allowed to ride a horse depending on where you're doing it. It's not like there's a ban on riding horses, just like there shouldn't be a ban on buying internal combustion engine vehicles. What's next? They're going to ban people from driving internal combustion vehicles. You have to sell them and buy an EV if you want to drive a car. That's going to be the next step. They're up to something very sinister here, and Liberals need to wake up right now. Conservatives, we've seen this for a long time now, but Liberals need to wake up. Our country's losing freedoms day by day. Moving ahead, we've got this story. This is quite something. So, province of Cpac has canceled this concert with this mega Christian rock star because he's too scary. NCC cancels upcoming Gatineau concert by controversial U.S. musician. I'm still trying to figure out why it's being canceled. Because they don't like him. This is draconian. You can't cancel a guy's concert because you don't like what the guy stands for. It's not like this guy's showing up with an arsenal of pow-pows and threatening the province or the city. The fact that Liberal supporters are cheering this on is disgusting. They like that freedom is getting taken away in this country. So much so they even had a guy here on CBC that agrees that this is not right.
So the story raises questions about who gets to take center stage and who gets to dismiss them as being controversial or perhaps unsafe. Now, this is something the comedy industry has certainly dealt with and something my next guest knows a lot about. Mark Breslin is Yuck Yuck's CEO and co-founder. He is in Toronto, and we reached him at Yuck Yuck's venue. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Ian. How you doing?
I'm doing well. So how do we draw the line when it comes to allowing somebody to perform, whether it's a comedian or a musician, that maybe a lot of people feel their message is inappropriate?
I think the only time that you can really cancel somebody or censor somebody is under the condition that what they are saying is so egregiously wrong and potentially violent that you just can't have them there. I think that's the only time that you can do, or if they're a convicted felon. I think under those two circumstances, I understand why people would not feel comfortable with having them. Other than that, they're just saying things that you don't agree with.
And you walk the walk. I came to your club a couple of years ago and interviewed you and asked you, where you draw the line. You basically gave the same answer. And at the time, I asked you, if somebody came to your club, I mean, you happen to be Jewish, if somebody came to your club and wanted to make jokes diminishing the Holocaust, would they be allowed to do that? And I think you said you would allow that.
Not only would we allow that, but in the early days of Yuck Yucks, we actually had a festival of Holocaust humor.
Huh. How do you? And looking back at it, was that?
We only did that once, Ian.
Yeah. Okay.
Listen to that. This is how this should be. You've got a Jewish guy allowing that H word humor, and they're canceling a Christian rock mega guy because they don't like him. That's not how this society operates. We're slowly slipping into the same type of countries you see in Africa, corrupt to the core, where the rule of law does not matter. It all falls into who's controlling the country versus how the books are written, how the rule of law is written.
So what about this case where you have a singer who is prominent in the MAGA movement, and you have people, from what I understand, who lived around where these concerts were going to be held, and at least some of them said, you know what? I don't like the crowd that he's going to attract. I don't like his message. It makes me feel unsafe in my own neighborhood, so we should not allow him to perform. What would you say to those neighbors?
I would say that you have an agenda, which is not really what you need to have. These people are not going to cause any violence. Again, you're just not going to agree with what they say, which is how I feel. I don't agree with what they say. I don't agree with everything every comic says. But if you're going to be in the entertainment business, you have to accept the idea that some people are going to do things that are controversial. But here's another question. All the people who booked him in the first place, and I know nothing about this guy, didn't they do some research to find out that he was potentially a problem? Because censorship is bad enough, but when people start to cancel people, performers, that's in a totally different world and is completely unacceptable. So if you're a promoter, find out about the act that you're promoting.
This is so disgraceful. Our country has just become a complete crap hole. Quebec City cancels concert of MAGA musician following lead of other Canadian cities.